A month ago, Kansas City was basically an afterthought. They had no direction. They were 3-4 coming off terrible losses. The Bills game was bad. The defense was one of the worst in the NFL. And over the course of the last month, things have completely gone in the opposite direction. Once again, after a Titans loss, a bad Titans loss, this one a different caliber than we noticed last time, the Chiefs have found out how to figure themselves out. They've righted the ship, and it all starts and ends with this Chiefs defense. That's what we're going to talk about this week. That's what we're going to talk about today. That's what my film room is going to be about on Wednesday. Buckle up, everybody. It's going to get crazy. The Chiefs defense has been incredible over the past month, and it's the biggest reason that they are sitting pretty at 7-4 right now at the head of the AFC West. This is RGR football. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Daniel Harms, film analyst here at RGR Football. And I got to tell you, that was some display. I know that there's going to be a lot of talk about how the Cowboys were missing a lot of their players. Their offensive line wasn't healthy. Obviously, Mark Cooper, CeeDee Lamb goes out and at halftime with a concussion. But with CeeDee Lamb, what were they doing? They weren't moving the ball very well. Michael Gallup is still a very good wide receiver. So you still have two capable guys on the outside. And Cedric Wilson has shown in the absence of whether it's Gallup or Cooper, he's been able to make plays in this offense, but nothing was going right for them. And a lot of it has to do with Steve Spagnuolo. He was so well prepared for this game. They studied extremely well to beat the Dallas Cowboys, not just on the field, but in their own minds. They had all of their wide receiver screens really shut down. Anytime they had openings for big run plays. The Chiefs tackled well. That's something that was not apparent in the first half of the football season, where the Chiefs defense was one of the worst tackling teams in the NFL. But as we've seen over the course of the last month, Steve Spagnuolo has finally figured out where his players should be. They bring in Melvin Ingram. It allows him to bring Chris Jones back to defensive tackle, that three tech position where he's incredible. He's a monster. 3.5 sacks on the day. I really wish they would have given him the full four, but Jerron Reed was in there. He's been making an impact too. This front four for Kansas City is healthy, it's impactful, and they're getting after the quarterback with regularity. But not that's not the most impressive thing because they've been able to get pressure over the last month. But the biggest impressive thing that I've seen from this defense is over the course of the last month, they are number third in the they're number three in the NFL against the run. Against the run, that's something that we talked about Steve Spagnuolo not caring about. But this defensive front has been really, really good at engaging, creating rushing lanes for the linebackers. They're seeing much better. Anthony Hitchens has helped a little bit, but I still think Nick Bolton is best against the run, and he's showing it and continuing to get tackles behind the line of scrimmage. This last month in November, they're third in the NFL in points allowed per game over the course of the month. That's incredible. The turnaround that they've had has been one of the least talked about points in the entire NFL season. Most of it has to do with the Chiefs offense not finding itself outside of one game against the Raiders. But this defense, when you can win games like that, when it's ugly, but you can dominate an offensive line as good, even as injured as the Cowboys offensive line is, they're still a very good offensive line with some very good players with some depth that can move the ball, that want to run the football. And there's a reason that Ezekiel Elliott didn't get much work in the second half. There's a reason that Tony Pollard didn't get much half. There wasn't much to do against this Chiefs defense. They were not only up in this game early on offense, but they shut the running game down because when you're only up by 13 points or so, you can still run the ball effectively. And the Cowboys wanted to at times. They just couldn't get anything going. There were no explosive runs outside of the trick play where Pollard faked the handoff to Dak Prescott and Bolton kind of didn't go after Pollard, which if I'm in that position, I'm telling Bolton to go after Pollard and not Prescott because if he throws it back to him, you have to hope that defense is in a good position, but just go after the ball carrier, the guy who's more explosive with the ball in his hands. I don't think that Prescott is a hugely dynamic runner. He's fine. He can do some things with his legs, but he's not going to burn you like Tony Pollard could. So that was one of the only things that I really saw that was explosive. The run defense has really been at not more than adequate. I think that Melvin Ingram yesterday showed playing more than 50% of the snaps, also being a rundown defender. He split a double team yesterday. I think I'm going to show you guys in my film review, and it was able to force Pollard to have to rotate back to the opposite side of the field, and they get a stop for a loss, if not, I mean, back to the line of scrimmage, if not for a loss, because Melvin Ingram was splitting a double team. And that's not something that I saw coming either. Jerron Reed, Derek Nottie have been impressive against the run over the last month. Derek Nottie, so underrated. So underrated. He's definitely going to have to be brought back next year. I don't think that there's any way you really let someone that cheap and valuable in the run game go. Jerron Reed's finally coming on. Frank Clark has been more healthy. He seems like he's got more juice. We all saw the clip of the defense on the field dancing. Like, they have found their swagger. This is what we talked about. The effort level early in the season was not there. They were defeated. They just continuously were finding ways to let teams throw a bunch of points on the board. But now they have that swagger back. They have that effort. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder, much like they did when they won the Super Bowl. This defense is starting to look much like that unit and less like the unit we saw last year and that we saw for the first half of the season. They've been better in the red zone, fifth in the red zone over the last month. That is stark difference over the first course of the NFL season. They've been so good, and one of the most important parts is all stopping drives. Sixth on third down in the entire NFL over the last month. That these these things that they're doing, they're playing so much better. They're tackling better. They're in better positions overall. But it's because the best players are in the best places to succeed. Juan Thornhill, they were not afraid of the Dallas Cowboys throwing the ball down the field. Not once. They were not threatened at all by what they brought to the table. I don't think that changes with Amari Cooper. I still think they would have forced Dallas to throw the ball short. But the big thing for me is seeing Willie Gay be a multiple type defender in the passing game, defending Ezekiel Elliott out of the backfield multiple times, and tight ends, getting them for 2-yard gains on these passes into the flat. He's able to run sideline to sideline. I'm going to cover Willie Gay in my film breakdown quite a bit, quite extensively. There's a lot of really, really nice things that I saw from him. Nick Bolton only got 19 snaps in this game, but a large part of that has to do with they were working in a lot of passing situations, which makes sense. They were down early. They couldn't get the run game going. So Spags was rotating Nick Bolton and Willie Gay on the field at times as well. And that's where you saw some of their explosive plays come to light. And that's probably why that started to lessen in the second half. They're getting more comfortable with them on the field, but still mentally they're very, very, very young. And that's why they want Dan Sorensen and Ben Neiman in the field in those situations. And they did limit a lot of their explosive plays on third down with Dan Sorensen and Ben Neiman at linebacker slash dime backer for that reason. But the fact that they're working them in a little bit more is very, very, it gives me a lot of confidence. It gives them confidence because that's the future of the Chiefs at linebacker, those two guys. So I liked seeing that. Again, in the secondary, Matthew looked incredible. He was all over the field. He was able to cover. I was very, very happy to see him being able to play one-on-one with some of their tight ends. Dalton Schultz in he had that seam or that wheel down the right sideline. He was able to stay with him, not showing any ill effects from his knee swelling. So I'm hoping that this bye week allows them to get that under control. Willie Snead. Willie Snead. I do this every single time. I talk about Willie Gay or go right into Snead. L'Jarius Sneed is one of the best corners in the NFL, not just because of what he's able to do playing defense in terms of the hip generation, being able to move and stay with your guy, but he's one of the best tackling corners in the NFL. Like that stick, recognizing that screen to Michael Gallup was coming, being able to make that play on the ball so quickly and get underneath the block attempt from Dalton Schultz, which, let's be honest, that wasn't very much of a block attempt. He just kind of stood there, and Snead read it and got to Gallup for a -2 or 3 yard on the gain. That's the kind of stuff that he's been doing all season, and his ability to blitz, to read the defense, to read the quarterback, to see what's happening as the play develops reminds me a lot of what Matthew does. So he's got that mental instinct that is going to allow him to play a lot of different positions. And there's a reason that they're running him off the side. They're using him as almost an extra linebacker at times. Specifically, when they go to nickel, they will sometimes line Sneed up as a slot corner, but bring him close to the line of scrimmage. He also almost acts like a Sam, and they bring him off the edge to come after the quarterback or the running back. They did that a lot in this game. He's so versatile, and he can get off of blocks, he can get underneath blocks, and then he can stick as a tackler. That has been one of the most impressive things to me. But overall, the corners, Sneed, Ward, and Fenton have played out of their minds this last month. They have been so solid. And Ward being able to play that boundary up the field when you take those deep shots, that's what he's best at. Being physical, get in their face, stay with them down the field. You know you have some help over the top at times, but when you don't, and you're in that situation one on one, like he was against CD Lamb yesterday, or excuse me, on Sunday, those are the situations he's best in. Finally getting his head around, reading the receiver as the play develops is very, very important to the interceptions part of his game. So as long as they're not running sideline to sideline or running across his face, he's been fine. And I think that really teams are not taking full advantage of him one on one and running slants and seam and drag routes, things like that. So really, this defense is finding themselves. This is when they get hot. They go into a bye now, and they come out playing 3 straight games against the AFC West, I believe. If I'm wrong, you guys can correct me in the comments on that. This is going to be an very, very important stretch for them to come out of the bye, continue to play with that defensive confidence. I think the fact that they were so active on the field against the Cowboys is going to be able to carry over. This kind of defense, this kind of confidence, they feed on that stuff. And Spags has them prepared. They have them so prepared right now. Not something I would have seen coming. But again, I have to tip my cap to Steve Spagnuolo because what he's done with this defense, finally getting everything in the right spot, letting it fall into place. It's just I have so much respect for that because I was one of the guys who dragged him a lot. I didn't believe that I still don't necessarily believe that his philosophy is the best way to go about playing defense in the NFL in 2021. But right now, he's able to disguise things so well. Like against the Cowboys, for example, he was bringing a lot of guys up to the line of scrimmage, but he wasn't bringing them all. Like he was backing guys out, and he was making Dak Prescott one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay, it's not a question anymore. He's really and with all the gifts that he has, he was making him think. If you can make the best quarterbacks in the NFL have to think, and then you can get pressure with 4 or when you are bringing an extra guy, even with guys who are excellent against the blitz, if you have to make them think, that's when you're going to get home. And that's why the Chiefs were so successful blitzing yesterday. They got beat sometimes, but Spags didn't. He wasn't worried about that. He was just saying, go play ball. Okay. Go do what you do best. I am going to set this up so you guys can succeed. And then the animal that is Chris Jones was literally everywhere. I'm going to chart for 100% certainty, but I'm very, very positive that he beat everybody on that offensive line one time at least. When you're dominating a game like that, it allows your coordinator to just do whatever he wants to on the back end. And they just were so successful lining up different, giving Dak Prescott different looks. And it felt like they were always ahead of what they wanted to do on offense. That is when your play caller, your coordinator's in the best position because he feels like he can do no wrong. And it didn't feel like he could do that on Sunday. They just continued to answer everything that the Dallas Cowboys gave him. And then you find a way to end the game on interception with a tipped pass from Chris Jones, who's getting doubled. So he just says, okay, I'm a little tired. I'm going to take the double and I'm going to wait for you to throw the ball, get my hands up. And I think Sneed, honestly, he was already coming underneath that route. He was going to pick that off anyway. He did have to slow up a little bit, but that shows you the anticipation and the reading from a guy second year in the NFL. But Jerry Sneed is a star. They have some real stars on this team. And if they can continue to play at this level, they're going to be a top 10 defense going into the playoffs. A top 10 defense going into the playoffs. That's not something I would have even thought possible in the first month of the season. So I'm excited about the way that this defense is looking. We're going to get a lot more in depth into it on Wednesday with the film review. In the comment section, if you guys want to see something specific, a specific play broken down a little bit longer, let me know. I'll go over those and I'll see what I can do if it's not something I'm already planning on doing, and I'll get that for you guys. But again, bye weeks coming up, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to be a little bit more um, generous with the film that we have. I have some games built up over the last couple of weeks, over the last month, that we'll go into and see really how the defense has gotten better. If you guys have anything specific that you want broken down, again, in the comments, let Ryan and I know. We'll try and get to it. He's got film, I've got film, so we should be able to do a good job, specifically over the last month. I think that's where we want to focus everything. So you guys have a great Tuesday, and I'm really, really excited to see the trajectory of this team, because right now everything is pointing up, and that's all you can hope for when all the teams around you are starting to break down. The Chiefs found a way to right the ship and get themselves in a position still vying for that number 1 seed. It's exciting. You guys have a great day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.